Mr. Buddy Carter has the distinction of being the easternmost member of the Western Caucus. You can't get much further east than Savannah, Georgia, let me tell you.
No, you can't.
Buddy, we're happy to have you. Happy to have you as a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. And let's turn the floor to you for your comment.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Kathy, for your remarks as well. And I appreciate you putting this together, Dan. It is extremely important because, I get frustrated, as you both know, and because I think Republicans are profiled sometimes, if you will, as being anti-clean energy. Nothing could be further from the truth. Especially if you look at the fact that Republicans have a long history of conservation, and you only have to look as far as Teddy Roosevelt, who discovered and created the national parks, Richard Nixon, who created the EPA, I should say. And I do believe that Republicans get a bad rap a lot of times because I think this is where the facts are important. And the facts are that we have been a party that's been very involved in clean energy, and we continue to do that. We all know that we have a responsibility to protect our natural wonders and to preserve our natural wonders. I tell people all the time, I have the honor and privilege of representing the entire coast of Georgia, over 100 miles of pristine coastline. It's my home. It's where I've lived all my life and where I intend to live the rest of my life. Some of my fondest memories are going fishing with my dad when I was growing up. And that's the same kind of experiences I hope my children and my grandchildren have. And I want to make sure that it's there for them. I want to make sure that our natural resources are taken care of. But the facts matter. And I get frustrated often because, not only do I serve on Energy and Commerce and on the Environmental and Clean and Climate Change Subcommittee, but I also serve on the Select Committee for Climate Change. And I get frustrated all the time because I feel like the United States gets a bad rap. In the past decade, the United States has decreased our carbon emissions more than the next 12 countries combined. And during that time, we've continued to grow our economy. So I believe it can be done. Obviously, it can be done. We've done it. And we have grown our economy and we have decreased our carbon emissions. But we need to, I've always said we need to achieve three things when we're talking about clean energy, when we're talking about climate change. We have to have adaptation, mitigation, and innovation. Kathy mentioned innovation, and I believe that the greatest innovators, the greatest scientists are right here in the United States of America. And I believe it's incumbent upon us to make sure we lead in innovation. And I think that we've done that, and we continue to do that. Even if you look at fossil fuels, we've cleaned that up so much. The natural gas that we're using more and more of is so much cleaner than some of the other fossil fuels that we were using in the past. And if you compare what's being used in Russia and China, that coal there, that's dirty coal, as opposed to what we're using here, which is much cleaner. And I don't think we get the credit for that as we should. But, as we go more toward clean energy, it doesn't mean that we have to destroy our economy and raise energy prices for American families. And that's something that's extremely important because I tell you, some of the proposals that have come out of the Green New Deal and some of the proposals that have even come out of the Select Committee for Climate Change, who are they going to have the most impact economically on? It's going to be the lower class and the lower middle class. Those are the ones who are really going to suffer because of increased energy costs. I'm old enough to remember the late 70s. And I always say that there's a difference between knowing something and realizing something. And in the late 70s, we knew we were too dependent on the Middle East for our energy needs. But we realized it whenever gas got up to $5 and $6 a gallon. And we knew that we had to have energy independence. And we achieved that, even to the point where now we have energy dominance. But now we have an administration that seems to be wanting to throw that away. And, as was mentioned with the first day in office, President Biden did away with the Keystone Pipeline. And yet they have endorsed and even supported the Nord Stream 2. It makes no sense whatsoever that we've worked so hard to create and to achieve energy dominance in this country that we're just going to throw it away. And that helps us in so many different ways. Obviously, it helps our citizens with lower prices for energy, but it also helps us on the world stage. My good friend, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, says quite often that whenever he was traveling the world, it was always an advantage for him to know that the United States had energy dominance. It gave him the confidence that he needed and the big stick, if you will, that he needed to know that he had that to negotiate with. I'm also proud of what Georgia has done, my home state. Georgia has, as you know, it has plenty of land, plenty of sunshine. We got a lot of pine trees, and I get frustrated too whenever they talk about agriculture and ag being a problem. Ag is not part of the problem. Ag is part of the solution. And if we look at Georgia, the #1 forestry state in the nation, those forests serve as carbon sinks. And we need to keep that in mind. Biomass, which is another carbon neutral energy source. That is something else that I think we need to look more at. And I'm very proud. Georgia right now is in the top 10 in solar power. I'm very proud of that. In fact, the governor has already said that by the year 2024, Georgia will be ranked 4th in solar power. And I think that's significant. I've heard from a lot of farmers throughout the state who've begun to put solar installations on their lands. And that's the type of innovation and type of adaptation, if you will, that we need to have in order to make sure that we're using green energy. Companies like Google and Facebook have come to Georgia and to do business. Georgia is the #1 state, again, for the 7th year in a row, ranked the #1 state in which to do business. And part of the reason for that is because companies like Google and Facebook are coming because they know we are a state of clean energy. We've got the only 2 nuclear reactors at Plant Vogtle right now that are currently under construction. And we all know that nuclear is part of the solution as well, that it is clean energy and that it's part of the base load that we're going to have in order to achieve what we want to achieve in our investment in clean energy. So I hope Georgia will be a good example. I hope they'll be a good example, and they should be, and we should be in the state of Georgia, a good example of how we can utilize clean energy and continue to grow our economy at the same time. So again, thank you, Dan, for having me. I am proud to be the easternmost member of the Western Caucus.
We're proud to have you.
I'll yield back.